Today is the actual first day of the symposium, and we get a lot of questions about the title of the event, Designing Civic Encounters, and because also in Arabic it means that we didn't literally translate it. It's more about spaces of dialogue. But I think in either way you think about it, we wanted to create multiple spaces where an alternative conversation about public space and about our cities can happen. And so I think that's mainly our goal, is to try to have the art space to create this alternative space for a conversation. I want to say something briefly about ArtTerritories, because this is actually our first big public event that takes place. ArtTerritories is mostly an online publication where artists and architects and thinkers interview one another in a form of a trail. So in a sense, you start with someone, you interview someone else, and then that person gets to select someone else to interview. And the aim of the initiative was to try to emphasize a connection between different practitioners. And from the beginning, Ursula and I felt very strongly, even though we felt actually that the Palestinian context was the inspiration for ArtTerritories, because it's so fragmented and also isolated, and movement is so difficult and challenging, that the internet became a way to overcome these obstacles and to say that Palestine, even as a inspiration, can be the bringing together of people, even if it was going to be online. So I feel also it makes sense that the first big initiative that we do is in Palestine. Because even though, as I said, the inspiration is Palestine, the Palestinian context, it's not strictly, the initiative is not strictly about Palestine, but is really trying to connect to the Arab world and the region and also other parts of the world. But as I said, from the very beginning, it was our aspiration to actually do something in reality, although we were very happy with being an online publication. And we thought that the interviews that we would publish would be kind of the starting point. And it just, one of the first interviews that I actually did for ArtTerritories was with Yazid Anani about an exhibition that he was co-curating with Vera Tamari. And that exhibition was dealing with the transformations happening in Ramallah. I'm sure he will say more about it. But it also triggered us to talk about the history of public spaces in Ramallah and in Palestinian cities in general. And I just now looking back, because this happened in October last year, we all felt that we wanted to do something actually in reality, and I'm very happy that Rosa Luxemburg, as well as all our other funders and partners, provided us with this opportunity to create this event. As you might have noticed in the program, it's multiple. So we started yesterday with an urban tour. We wanted to start from the actual locations, and we wanted to have the conversations happen in different places. And then today it's somewhat more formal, because we have these 2 days of a symposium where you're going to get to hear different perspectives and different kinds of speakers speak. But I also want to emphasize that the encounter shouldn't only happen in this room, that the encounter should happen all over the space. And this is why I really want to thank Shuruq for being the kind of space that they are, because usually this is how they are with the youth. They're very hospitable, but they also were very generous with us in terms of allowing us to use all of the space. So please take advantage of it and make encounters everywhere. And yeah, and just maybe to emphasize, if you looked at the program, you would have seen also Taysir Padlishi's work. He made a really wonderful work about Gaza, and it's really the only contribution we have from Gaza, so I really recommend looking into it. I also want to say that Shuruq has a booth upstairs, and Shuruq is a volunteer-based initiative that cares for Palestinian agriculture, and they're going to be upstairs, not campaigning, but kind of telling you about some of the challenges that faces Palestinian agriculture at the moment because of the expansions, the urban expansions, but also because of the Israeli occupation. And maybe just a last note, because a lot of people have asked me as well if, when we're talking about the civic or designing the civic encounter, or we're talking about the cities, especially in the Palestinian context, Are we forgetting the politics? No, I mean, definitely, we all realize that everything in Palestine is political, even the air. But I think what we care for in this situation, or for me personally, maybe I should speak from my own position, that I started this initiative thinking about my own context, where I was being implicated. And I hope that this is the case with all of you. So I started to ask myself, where do I live? And what was the story behind where I lived? What did that change? I started to look around to everything around me that seemed very normal because you see it every day, but then it's actually not really normal. And I started to think, well, what can I do about it? And where can I ask these questions? And this is really, for me personally, the motivation for creating this space with you guys. And I hope that's what you also can bring to the table, is, you know, to bring your questions about the things that you see every day that you don't have a space to discuss.